Hello, everybody. A very good morning or good afternoon, or if you're in Asia, good evening. Welcome to the global book launch of Into the Wild, Creating a Coaching Culture at the Workplace. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Adrian Lim, one of the co-authors and co-founders of the Coaching Culture. I am a full-time systemic team and executive coach, and I'm an ICF professional certified coach. Yeah, so let me take this opportunity and also to have my colleagues Eileen and Choi Kyu introduce themselves.
Okay, let me go first. So I'm the other 1/3 of the author for the book, as well as a co-founder for the Coaching Culture. I come with a leadership and talent management background, slightly different from Adrian's, but all very much into coaching. So I'm trained in emotions-centered coaching as well. So as well as a ICF associate certified coach, that's what they call us. Over to you, Choi Kyu.
Let me guess. I think Choi Kyu is speaking to one of our guests.
Yes, I'm speaking. So just hold on a minute, Annie.
No worries.
I'm Choi Kyu. Nice to meet all of you. I see so many friends, familiar faces, and look forward to sharing with you more about the book. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Choi Kyu. Okay. So let me just start sharing my screen. See my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. This evening, it is with great pleasure that we welcome also a special guest in our midst. So please bear with me as I do just with just a few introductions. I'd like to first introduce and welcome our first special guest, Ernie Turner. Ernie is currently on vacation in Avon, Colorado in the United States, and he's the one that Choi Kyu was speaking to a short while ago. Ernie is the president of Leadership in Motion. He is also a keynote speaker, author, co-author, gardener, and scuba diver too. So a nice warm welcome to Ernie. And also a warm Singapore welcome to our dear friend, Jean-Francois Cousin, who is a master certified coach. And Jean-Francois JF is joining us from Bangkok, Thailand. Sawadee krap.
Sawadee krap.
JF he was the chairman of the 2019 International Coaching Federation Global Board. Also with us this evening is Dr. Deepa Desai. She's joining us from Mumbai. And Deepa is the founder and CEO of D-Cube Consultancy. As you can tell, doctor. So Deepa is a physician. She is also the 2019 HBA Luminary and 2020 Farmer Voice 100 Most Inspiring Leaders. So namaste, Deepa.
Namaste. Namaste. Thank you for having me.
So as you can tell, we do have professionals in the pharma industry here. So if anyone has questions about your vaccines, please feel free. I would also like to take this time now to acknowledge our book endorsers. So some of them are with us this evening, and let me just go through them. So from Singapore, we've got Elvin Aloysius Goh and Elvin Ng and Ross Hosberg. From the UK, we have Anne Welch and Brietta Sebastian. My dear friend Jennifer Taylor is in Melbourne, Australia. My former boss at Dell, Phil Ventimiglia in Atlanta, Georgia. Pete Kullaway, also my former boss from 20 years ago. Pete Kullaway. Pete, you're joining us from Milano, aren't you?
Indeed, yeah. I'm
okay, wonderful, wonderful. Welcome, Pete. And then the person that has made this all happen for us, we want to say a very nice and big thank you to our publisher, Poon Kok Wah, who has been very patient in guiding us and being our Sherpa for the last, almost a year? Kok Wah?
Yes,
About a
it
year,
is.
isn't it?
Yes,
Is it a year?
a year.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, so wonderful. Thank you very much. So just to sort of give you a little bit of context. So Eileen, Choi Kyu, and myself, we've known each other actually amazingly for just over a year and a half now. And all of us were members of the International Coaching Week committee back in 2020. So, you know, after the whole event, we continued to stay in touch and we continually met every Friday morning. And this book, Into the Wild, Creating a Coaching Culture at the Workplace, is a COVID project. We actually worked on it throughout the whole entire pandemic of 2020. We started the Coaching Culture, which is our company, in January of this year, 2021. And the vision for the Coaching Culture is to create a movement, a coaching culture movement. And this movement spans across the workplace, into homes, and into society, where every individual has the opportunity to create and experience coaching moments, either to coach someone or to be coached, anytime, anyway. So for those of us who need an agenda, here it is. So can I just, Choi Kyu, is Ernie with us already?
He's with us
Yes.
now.
Okay,
Hi,
great,
Ernie.
good. Well, good. So we will invite, I will be calling on Ernie to join us in a little while. And then after that, it will be JF and Deepa, and then we'll leave the wrap up. we'll give some airtime to Kok Wah to share his takeaways from working with three authors. Yeah, it's like, you know, having 3 children. Yeah, so he's got to do with 1 boy and 2 girls. All right.
Before that,
Okay.
maybe we take a photograph. If
Sure,
you-
let's do that. Okay, good. So can I?
Maybe you unshare your screen and then we have a full
Sure.
screen and you can do the honors.
I can do the honors. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will accept that invitation. And if I could invite everyone to, if you're comfortable, to turn on your video so we can capture this very special occasion for all of us. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else would like? Yeah. Thank you, Afni. All right. Okay. Let me set it all up. All right. On a count, we'll count down to 3, 2, 1. Big smile. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Okie dokes. Let me go back to my. So, without further ado, I've taken too much of the Zoom spotlight already. Let me hand the time over to our dear friend, Ernie Turner. And I was mentioning earlier that Ernie is vacationing in Avon, Colorado. He's originally from Florida, and Ernie is the president of Leadership in Motion. So, Ernie, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you all in Singapore. I wish I was there in person. For those of you who are there, Singapore is my second home. I get there at least before COVID about 4 or 5 times a year. So I'm looking forward to a physical return. And I had just a little bit of technicality getting in, but thanks to Choi Kyu, we made it. I made it. So pleasure to be with you. And for those of you like me who are coming in virtually, this is to me a very special occasion. I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. When I was asked to write the foreword, I was very pleased. And it's great to be here and share just a few thoughts. Actually, I have 8 questions I'd like to answer in the 10 minutes that you gave me, Adrian. And so let me get right into it. The first question is, what attracted me to your book, Into the Wild? First of all, the theme. I am a coach. I've been a coach for 45 years. And I see the power, I've seen the power of the transformation that can happen when teams, when organizations, when functions really take on a coaching culture. So the theme certainly attracted me right away. And then I am an animal lover. I've had so many pets over the years. I've had horses. I had a skunk as my first pet. Got a gibbon, a Western Tarsier. I see your cat there, Adrian. Yeah, I've got a cat sitting at home waiting for me to return. I've had dogs. I've had a monkey. Now I've got iguanas. Anyway, I love animals. So the fact that this book was based on the animal kingdom and the interaction between species is something that I'm very fond of. In every video I get, I look at how connected we are as human beings and as animals in the animal world. Third, I love fables. I was an English literature major, and C.S. Lewis was one of my favorites. And the Narnia series is something that was special to me. And this reminded me exactly of that. So that certainly attracted me. And then the fact that I've known Choi Kyu, I've known you for, wow, 12, 14 years now, and seeing you grow as a professional, as a coach, as a leader, and got your passion many years ago in the times that you and I have been working together and partnering in different assignments. And then Adrian and Eileen meeting the three of you and seeing that you're living a coaching culture, and I heard your story. And then obviously the invitation to write the foreword, that really got me into the book ahead of most of you to be able to read it and understand it. Second question, what are the characteristics of a coaching culture? I think in your book, you really put them together very nicely, and I tried to extract some of the changes that happen when you go from a non-coaching culture to a coaching culture, and I'd just like to highlight a few. So one is to go from blaming to coaching, to go from discussion, which is like percussion, concussion, it's very much like this, to dialogue, which is very open to hearing, appreciating, understanding, from distrust to respect, from chaos to clarity, from debate to discovery, from knowing to being curious, from fear to feedback, from silence to speaking up, and from silos to cross-functional collaboration. And in the story here, from bankruptcy to really profitability, and from employee departure to employee satisfaction. And last but not least, from dictating to sharing leadership. So these to me were the wonderful definitions that you brought to life in the story of your book. And for those of you who haven't read it and are getting into it, you'll really come to get to know the characters and their traits and their foibles and how they actually take on these changes as they go from a very non-collaborative, non-coaching culture to one where they are really appreciating listening to one another. Third question is, how can we start building a coaching culture? To me, I'm a so what learner, really looking at, so what are the opportunities? What are the implications? And I think there are several steps that for those of you who are really interested, not only in reading the book, but in actually taking the message of the book to heart and bringing it to life in your own company. The first is to be very clear on definitions. What are we getting ourselves into? And really, to me, it's three words characterize a coaching culture: being curious, really wanting to know something, actually having a good understanding of what coaching is, both formally and informally. And then the essence to me of everything is learning, having a real high desire to learn. What is this? What is that? And I think probably a fourth word that comes to mind is help. It's a four-letter word that is very infrequently used in companies. And I think as all of us start to ask and look for help, we can really start to develop a coaching culture. And then I think it's important to have a business case to really understand the implications for the business, the change that it will take, the effort it will take, and then what the benefits will be. To me, the benefits really outweigh the cost of going through the agony of change from a dictating kind of environment to one of coaching. So it's the change. The business case to me is very simple. It's more effective, it's more efficient, it's more fun, and it's certainly more profitable. And then I think another key step is to get into the door of the change maker, who is usually the CEO or the president or the director or the functional leader of whatever the level that you're entering in, and really help that individual understand the business case. You may have to take a couple turns going through an informal leader who knows the leader and can speak to him or her and say, this is something I think we ought to do. And then present your business case, and see if they're interested in help. Once they say help, yeah, that sounds great, I'd like to do it, then I think the next steps are pretty clear. You offer your support as a coach to say, let's create a dream of what this could look like. We can provide the tools. We know what coaching looks like. We know how to create the environment where it's safe to say no, where you have decision-making processes that are easy to make, where you have meeting management tools and skills and techniques, and actually to coach them through that journey. I actually happen to have that situation come to me a number of years ago in Hong Kong, where the individual that I was working with, she was going through a 360 instrument for herself and her team, and she got feedback that really surprised her. And she said, I need help. And so the head of HR in the region offered me as a coach to work with her. And she said, Ernie, I can't continue this way. I need to change my leadership style. And so I suggested, are you interested in shared leadership, collective leadership, as the book describes it? She said, yes. And she said, what is it? And I said, well, what do you think it is? You spend the night coming up with your own definition, and then I will join you in the morning over a coffee. So she did. And she said, I'd like to do this, and I'd like to do it with my team. Could you work with me and my team? The situation that she was in is a lot of her staff were leaving, her key leadership team. Profitability had gone down, and she was about to get fired. And this was sort of the last rope. Get a coach. After some work with her and her team, the employee satisfaction, the morale started to improve. She got a promotion, was head not only of Hong Kong, but also Taiwan. And it started to permeate this new coaching culture, asking for help, getting help throughout her organization. So I know this can work. I've seen it firsthand. Next question, what are the most important persons that can influence and ensure success? Well, first of all, as I mentioned, the informal leader and the formal leader, and obviously the coach. I think to have a coach, as was demonstrated and said throughout the book, someone who is competent, who is confident, and is credible. And those three words are easy to say, but they're very difficult to put together in a combination. So I think the competence is critical to know what you're talking about so that your client is in good hands. Fifth question, who else needs to be involved? Obviously the team members, the key stakeholders, the individual's boss, his or her peers if possible. HR is a critical support factor. We partner with them. OD, learning and development. These are all key stakeholders that you need to reach out to. And how do you sustain it? I think this is a critical question. How do you sustain a coaching culture? Like in a road trip, and I'm taking a road trip, periodically we need to stop and tune up and get gas and see, are we on the right road? We're making good time, but are we going in the right direction? What's happening in the future? Are there being able to look ahead? So tune-ups are very important. It just isn't a once and you're on your way and don't worry about anything else. There needs to be champions, and certainly one champion who will at all costs continue to keep the momentum going. And then to have an external coach to rely upon and call in periodically as you need help. To me, the key for the seventh question, what are the factors in building a coaching culture? It's passion, it's influence, and then once again, the credibility and the confidence of the coach. And obviously ROI. If there's no ROI, it's going to be very difficult to sustain this. There'll be critics who say, look, it's not working. So look for the ROI. It's there. Find ways to measure it. There's nothing better than an ROI to reinforce a coaching culture. And then I think it's the continuity and the commitment of the champions. Common mistakes, what are they that the real world faces in developing a coaching culture? That there's no shared vision, that you have really opposition within the team. And this was illustrated in the book. You have to get alignment and say, are we all clear on where we're going and how we're going to get there and why we're going where we're going? So that commitment, uncommitted champions can disrail it, no clear business case, coaches who aren't clear on what they're doing. So these to me are the key things, the key questions that as I was talking to Adrian and Eileen and Choi Kyu, I thought I would address with you. I encourage you to get the book. It's a fun read and there's a lot of depth to it and a lot of takeaways on every page. Adrian, that's all I have to say right now. I'll take questions at some point.
Right. Thank you so much, Ernie. I'm just curious, are there any questions from the audience today? Does anyone have a question for Ernie?
If you have questions, maybe you could put it in chat and then we will pick them up. Either Adrian, Eileen, or myself will be picking up the questions along the way.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing I've discovered, Adrian, is that,
What's that?
I've discovered that if people get 1 minute to think of a question and write it down, the questions emerge. It's very difficult right on the spot to say, what's your question? So maybe, I don't have to answer it now, but if people are given a minute to think, the questions definitely emerge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, good. So let's transition over then. So let me hand this time now to Eileen. Eileen, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. So we're thinking, what's a book launch without sharing some excerpts from our book, right? So we'd like to share a short narrative from the book, which is about the star performer in the story who has been always exceeding performance and is also next in line to becoming the next CEO. However, he has certain behaviors that he needs to be aware of and how that behavior impacts the people around him. So let me read you the excerpt, all right? So it says here, "You," thundered Lang, "give me the numbers now." Lang was not satisfied with every response given, even if the numbers looked good and the analysis was a balanced one. Lang did not care. He was clearly in a mood to destroy everything that was said and proposed. The atmosphere in the meeting room was exceptionally toxic. Every animal's head was hanging down from their necks. No one dared to speak. When he saw every animal looking down, looking so cowardly, Lang got into an even worse temper. In anger and frustration, he got up to leave. Before stepping out of the room, he turned around and said, "This is the worst meeting ever. None of you are prepared. The figures are so weak. How can I expect you bunch to deliver success for WOW? All of you do not deserve a job at WOW." And with that parting shot, he left the meeting. So this is one of the stories, episodes in our fable. And I would like to call upon Jean-Francois, our friend and one of our endorsers. Jean-Francois, I would like to kind of invite you to share your experience of how a coaching culture in an organization has supported the learnings of a difficult leader, so that such episodes won't ever happen again for him. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot, Eileen. And thanks, Eileen, Choi Kyu, and Adrian for your kind invitation. I'm happy to be with you. And I'm also grateful to Ernie for very enlightening comments. And thanks for the brilliance and the experience that underpins it, Ernie. And I'd like also to have one more thank, which is to Adrian, Eileen, and to you. It's for the gift of your book. And for those of you who will order it, you have to know it comes in this beautiful bag, right? And then of course, the gift is there. And you can see I've taken notes because it's so insightful and enjoyable and inspired and compelling. That's it's a page turner, and there's so many insights I did not want to miss. So I took note. Now I'm going to tell you another story about another animal, and you're gonna have the possibility to figure out as we go through the story what animal that is. Like Lang, but Eileen was just talking about, he did a lot of damage. And yet he was a good animal at heart. His name is Gary. And if you'd meet him, you would not suspect anything's wrong, because Gary would see you with designer suit, impeccable tie, cufflinks, in an impeccable office, spotless. His huge factory with thousands of workers would also be immaculate. In fact, you'd see rubbish bins clearly positioned with rectangles painted in color, so they are where they need to be. And you'd think, wow, that is amazing. That must be the heaven of industry, right? And then if ever you'd ask supervisors hanging out, they would tell you, oh, no, it's hell. It's hell here, you know? And I'll use my notes because this is a real story, and I was involved in the ending of it, so I'll be accurate as I share stuff with you, right? And then if you ask supervisors, as I did actually, they'll tell you, yeah, it's hell here. You know, we are kind of sandwiched between very horrible management and very demanding operators who act more and more as our bosses and don't even want to do extra time, even if it pays well. So yeah, I was confused, you would be. And then I need to give you a bit of a background. How can this look like paradise but be hell? You need to know more about Gary. Gary was promoted to be the chief of that giant factory after he had been very successful in a very small factory, in fact. And he came in with huge ambition and said that within a year, he would make that factory world-class for productivity and quality. And he actually did that. But then at the end of that year, just after the factory had received those 2 awards, the salary increase and the bonus came up, and they were just like usual. And operators were absolutely distraught and furious because they had been forced to work so hard in such a toxic climate. And so they went on to form a trade union, which never happened in the history of the whole group. And then, much worse, they started to figure out how they were going to strike. And then, of course, Gary lost it, was terrified. And then what he did was to reach out to the operators in the back of the managers and the supervisors, and take populist measures to try and desperately save the show. And so the factory was at the cusp of explosion, in fact, right? It was a catastrophe. And that's when top management far, far away in another land called the coach. It happened to be me, right? And when I met Gary for the first time, he was kind of desperate, in fact, and because there was this climate of no judgment and comfort, right? He just spilled the bean almost instantly, saying he had realized that he had put the factory in great danger, that it was going to cost a lot more keep people in the factory because there were so many departures. People could not bear the toxic environment and could not bear his micromanagement. And he told me how he was managing, and indeed it was like, to me, not even micromanagement, it was nano management. You have no idea. He was controlling everything, checking every little detail. It was hell, right? So his managers and his supervisors were sandwiched between his very demanding management and operators that were empowered because the stressed out factory manager was reaching out to them to keep them going and doing some populist stuff that was really toxic. So he told me, yeah, it was time to reinvent the way he is and how he does things, but he had no clue because the only thing that ever worked for him was micromanagement, just making sure everything's fine. Yeah, so he was at a loss, and I proposed to gather feedback verbally from people all around him, right? The 360 survey that you all heard about, right? So he agreed, and that was good of him, right? Because sometimes it's a bit intimidating, right? And then he got the results, and they were like atrociously negative, but he got them unfiltered, right? Because that matters, yeah? And so people I had interviewed were saying he was not trusting them ever. He was micromanaging all the time, discouraging their input by his love of winning over others in discussions every time, adding his 2 cents and all that stuff, right? And he really strived to appear the smartest guy in the room, and he was prompt also to lay the blame on others when something was not going well that he should have taken responsibility for. So Gary, my Gary, was deeply, deeply hurt by the fact that they were so terrible highlights, or perhaps lowlights, right? We should call them, right? And then his eyes were filling, you know, and he was telling me, it's true, I have so many flaws and idiosyncrasies, but at the core, I'm a good man, and I mean good. All I mean is good. And he was really that close to bursting out in tears, right? Okay, so then we started the coaching work, right? And he found out where his fear of letting go, his fear of giving some freedom to others, right, was coming from, and that was deep, 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 right? And where also his urge to appear smarter, right, to shine over others were coming from. And again, it's very, very deep in his personal history, right? And then, okay, we worked out how he could evolve and grow and change perspectives and mindsets. And then he courageously decided the actions he was going to take. And then he wrote a letter to every participant of the 360, and then to the whole management team as well. And he said in particular, okay, well, thank you. And then I want to improve. And in essence, I want to listen more and stop interrupting you. I want to show and build more trust with you. I want to empower you more and stop blaming for my mistakes. Stop blaming for mistakes done in good faith, and make my leadership style more motivating. And in the same email, Gary asked people to hold him accountable. And then one did, most did not trust that at all, right? How could they, right? But one did, and when Gary indeed started to ask questions, because he was interested in what people were starting to say, right? His questions were, it was new to him, so they sounded like investigative questions, like very unpleasant, right? And one of his managers dared to take him at his word and give him feedback and say, you know, your questions, they freak us out, right? Because they sound like a detective, right? Perhaps you can cool down a bit and be a little bit less inquisitive in your line of questioning. And so Gary thanked the guy, thanks God for that, and walked the talk. And over a year, it took a long time, right? But not insanely long time. Over a year, he started to be doing really well. And most importantly, of course, all his managers, and there were many because it was a big factory, right? Really started also to act as he had started to act, right? And be more interested, be more curious about ideas from around, really seeking to understand, just like Ernie was saying, right? Keen to learn new ways of being and doing things, right? And keen to help others, right? And so what was developing informally was kind of seeds of a coaching spirit in the company, right? Rooted in an interest in the potential of others and a belief that together we're smarter, and our collective intelligence is a very precious currency for the business, right? And so there is a happy ending to the story in business terms, right? A retention, which was disastrous, came back to really good, and then the energy at all levels of the factory went up, and that was really good for business. And then at the end, I think well, we can summarize in saying that Gary had eventually found his own way inside out to do really the good that he wanted to do for people. Now imagine, that was a company that had no coaching culture. It was exactly 12 years ago, a long time, right? And so they called a coach because they were desperate. That does rarely happen nowadays, right? We don't call a coach when we don't wait for a situation to be that disastrous to call a coach, right? We call coaches to help people unleash more of their potential so they can be great and never at risk to do mistakes like Gary, right? Yeah, I need to stop there because time is running fast. I think I overstepped. My apologies. Yeah.
Thank you, Jean-Francois. I think that was a very nice sharing of how coaching actually can help a leader in need, right? Like you said, Gary was a good person. So, but he doesn't realize that his behaviors are having that negative impact on others, right? So really, it is very nice to think that, but of course, he also said it takes time. So we all know that coaching is a good solution, but it is not an overnight solution. So thank you for your question. There is a question coming for you. So it comes from Afni, and she said, great story, JF. Could really visualize the trauma of the employees and the triumph in the end. So maybe taking a slight note from what Afni mentioned, right? I am wondering, in your story, let's say, right, what do you think how do you think we can support the employees who have experienced the behavior of a leader that created that toxic environment? How can we support the employees, especially those who witness those outbursts?
Yeah, so thanks, Eileen, for the question, right? And Avni as well, right? So we've got to act on multiple fronts, actually. We really need to work with the manager who has toxic behaviors and outbursts, right? To gain self-awareness, right? And in particular, awareness of their fears, because behind aggressive behaviors always will find fears, right? So what is it they're afraid of, right? And what is driving their urges to act in a toxic manner? So that we've got to do, and coaches are super well equipped for that, right? In another part, we've got to really work with the senior management in a company, right, as coaches, right, so that they can see the benefits of a coaching culture that Ernie brilliantly outlined earlier on, right? Because when they are all aligned on this and they're ready to role model coaching approach to interaction with others, right, and embed in their leadership coaching skills, then the outliers who have toxic behaviors will quite quickly actually join the flow, and to support and we need to do that before we can support employees, because if employees are confronted with a manager who is toxic, right, and if they report the behaviors or offer feedback to the manager, they risk perhaps too much for themselves, right? So we need to have a safe ecosystem, and then once that's in place, then well, in the first part, toxic behaviors really kind of disappear pretty quickly, right? Because it's like so not okay to be like that, right? It's so inappropriate, so frowned upon, and on the other side, people enjoy. Annie mentioned there's some fun in coaching cultures. My God, yes, a lot, right? And there is that value that emerges from the interest we have in each other in the conversations, right? And then yes, and things get settled, and this is super good for business, obviously, right?
Okay, thank you, Jean-Francois. We have one question coming from Denmark. Bente asks, how did Gary's new style influence others' leadership style in that same organization that you mentioned?
Yeah, so there was a time lag actually, Bente, because at the beginning nobody believed him, right? Everybody was kind of positively surprised that he had the guts to write that very humble letter, which was as close to as an apology as is possible, right? And really being vulnerable, right? They thought, wow, that's good. But that's probably, perhaps the coach told him to do that, right? Which of course was absolutely not the case. It was his decision, yeah? So let's stay careful. The guy must be dangerous still, right? This is just a spur of the moment thing, right? So, and then when he showed efforts, right, as he tried to walk the talk, right, or walk what he had committed to do in the email, people thought, wow, what if he would really be trying, yeah? And then, you know, the huge benefit of vulnerability as a leader, right, is that people quickly feel the urge to help you out, right? So past that period of incredulity, right, or not believing that it could be for real, when they saw persistence and courage and clumsiness, right, because that was so new, he had to be clumsy, right? Then they decided, wow, Gary is for real. His heart must be in the right place after all. Wow, we can't let that unrewarded, right? I'm sorry for the emotion because it's beautiful to me, right? And then they jumped in, right? Yeah, all emotional now, because to me that's such a privilege to humbly assist, yeah, those managers, right, to reinvent themselves. Thanks, Bente, for the question.
Thank you. We have one other question, but shall we move on with the part, and then we'll come back to the questions at the end of the session. Yes, thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Mate.
I'll be sharing another excerpt of from the book, and it is a narrative on a team of high performers who, after experiencing team coaching, shared their reflections and learnings, and also their wish. It's in chapter 8. Every interaction counts. Olive was clearly in a reflective mood. You know what I want? I want to be able to work like how we've worked on the project during the past month, but I want to do this all the time. I want a new culture in the Wild company. You know, like what we've done here. What do you think, Ang? Ting, do you think this is achievable? Ang was getting excited too. Well, I know what I want. All our leaders to make time to talk with the staff. I want all leaders to behave the way Osman did. He definitely walks the talk. He makes every single interaction count all the time, every time. Ting continued, well, what I want is for everyone to be brave enough to speak the truth, give honest, truthful feedback in a respectful manner, be able to receive feedback even though it may hurt them for a while, to see beyond the hurt and appreciate the courage of the giver to share that feedback, especially if it is negative feedback, be it to someone more senior or junior than themselves. To me, this is freedom of speech, freedom of giving the gift of feedback to anyone we believe deserves our gift, creating a new language for all of us to speak with each other. I'd like to now introduce Dr. Deepa Desai, multiple award winner, including the prestigious Healthcare Businesswomen's Association Luminary Award, founder and CEO of DCube Consultancy, a dear colleague and dear friend. Deepa, you've been in the corporate world for many years. What do you think could be some steps that could be taken to make this happen, to create a new language or a new culture? What support would be needed?
So first of all, before I answer that question, thank you so much for having me here. And what a wonderful book. I am so humble and I feel like privileged to read the book before it has reached the world. And I want to say, yes, I have my copy and I hope that you have your copy too, right? And now coming to your question, Joy Q, when I was listening to JF, I kind of realized that, what an important role a coach plays, when he is trying to change the culture within an organization. But from my experience of corporate life, I would like to share that what it is that you do when you are a leader, right? And I would say as much as like sounds easy, but it is not to bring about a change or a transformation of a culture within a corporate environment. It definitely works best when the team is as engaged and involved as the leadership. So I always believe that the leader needs to take the first step because it is their vision to see this happen successfully. And once you as a leader are sharing this vision with your teams, your sincerity, your passion, and your belief in that idea helps to bring the required engagement from the team, right? So in my career, I have run new environments, new teams. So I'm just going to share few of the fundamental approaches that I have always taken. Okay. I would say that as a leader, always fold your sleeves. When you get into a new environment, fold your sleeves, understand the business, be transparent, and talk to all the folks at all the levels within your team. This is so important to bring the robust culture or the vision that you are seeing. Many a times I've seen that the best ideas comes from the frontline employees and not from the leaders who just talk about the strategy and vision every time, right? As a leader, when you want to bring a change, don't jump to making changes because just that you want your presence to be felt. Have patience to listen, have patience to understand what is the situation. Always have representation from different stakeholders in your review meetings because I feel this is very important to brainstorm and thresh the ideas to ensure that every group have a voice and that they can discuss the potential risk that they have experienced. And when you design a new idea, you can take that into consideration. And as we see in the book and what Choi Kyu just read, the ask of the different team members was that how we wish that we have an opportunity to voice our opinion and share and have that transparency and comfort feeling. I also feel that one of the key things in corporate world is the ownership. And this ownership needs to be at all the levels. But when you are a leader, you need to take the lead. You need to focus that every time there is an issue, it should not be, oh my God, who went wrong? But rather it should be where it went wrong and how can we all ensure that these gaps that we identify are resolved and we can avoid future repetition of similar issues. I think that to have a culture where every individual believes that they are the leader of the business by virtue of the role that they play in the process. And I feel that as a leader, when you're conversing, when you're discussing, when you're taking everyone's opinion, they feel that they play an important role in the success of the organization. And this is very important. And I can say from experience that the folks in my team, they realize that as they work with me, I really encourage the feedback, focus on the loopholes in my ideas. I encourage them to challenge me. But you know what? I absolutely love when they come with meaningful and logical alternatives to the gaps that they have identified, because then there is a fun to make those changes. And I would really urge the leaders to be agile, to make those changes in your plan. Because honestly, if you do not hesitate to make those changes, then you will be really able to be a successful leader, because the success of your team helps you to be successful. And when you make those changes in the plan, don't shy or hesitate to bring the owner of that innovator in the limelight. I think this is very important. When you create a culture, when you give that reward to the person because of whom you are successful, I think the culture will be more transparent. There would be less fear to share their ideas. And it is also very important that the teams feel it is safe to suggest and to speak up. This is so very important, right? And sometimes I believe that the teams are more intelligent than the leader, because the leader is always trying to see how to make the revenue and how to get the numbers right. But then how can you make a win-win situation is something that your team can share with you. And the other and the most important fundamental that has helped me is that pull all those inappropriate behavior in your one-on-one meetings, in a close environment. Bring up incorrect behaviors, talk about it, be transparent, and coach your team, coach that team member, brainstorm it within the team. But when it comes to reward and recognition, just do it on the stage. Let the whole world know about it, right? So I would say that to do all this, when you realize in a new team, you need an external neutral partner to help you to moderate those conversations. Don't hesitate to ask for help. Just ask and get in a right coach to help you to moderate this. Because at the end of the day, a leader is also a coachee and also needs help sometimes. So please accept that, right? And to conclude my suggestions, I would just say that, for me, when I read about the Wild Company, I feel that the whole transformation of the journey from a very toxic culture, to one that opened curiosity, courage, and collaboration. And I think that I use the above fundamentals to really encourage and enhance these three behaviors in the teams that I work. So I think, I know it was a very lengthy response to your one-liner question, but I feel this is so very important because it's a continuous act and not a one-time change that you make.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deepa. This is brilliant. And folks, the Deepa I know is exactly who you're seeing right now, the authentic leader, the caring leader. And I think we don't have much time left to ask Deepa questions, but if you have questions, just send them away, put them away in chat. We will get them through to Deepa to get them answered. So thank you again, Deepa, for sharing your insights.
Thanks so much.
Over to you, Adrian. We've just got about 3 minutes.
Okay, well, very quickly, let me then take this opportunity to invite our publisher, Kok Wah, who has been sitting by the wings. Kok Wah, how was it for you working with one boy and two ladies?
Okay, I think first and foremost, happy Friday to everyone. I'm really happy to be here with all of you to celebrate the global launch of Into the Wild. I often like to joke that one of the biggest advantage of writing a book is that other than your own wedding, how else do you find an excuse to bring good friends, colleagues, associates, and together into a platform like this, isn't it? So thank you, Choi Kyu, Adrian, and Eileen for inviting me. I feel kind of old now because Adrian keeps emphasizing that the three of them are my children. So I guess the only giveaway is my white hair. So I'm going to keep my sharing really short in response to Adrian's question, because I know that unlike physical book launches, it's easy for the host to mute me when the time is up. So Adrian actually asked, how did the book came about? So if I were to recall, I mean, for those who are based in Singapore, you'll know that last year we went into the circuit breaker around April, and that was when everything or most of our activities pivoted online. And if I'm not wrong, I organized a webinar called Talking Books, where I invited a 6 published authors to share and read a part of their book. And I think it was during this webinar that Eileen attended, or I'm not sure if Choi Kyu and Adrian attended as well. And so that's how she first got to know me. And then she got to know about the workshop which I conduct, which is called So You Want to Be an Author. And they signed up, the three of them actually signed up because they were actually planning to co-author a book at that point of time. So in the masterclass, they were taken through the 6P of the publishing process. But at that point of time, I already knew that they had a very clear goal in their mind. And that's very evident because of their commitment that they have shown in completing their assignments. I'm sure all of you remember. And how three of them actually make full use of every interaction they had in the virtual class to actually nurture this book idea that they have. So without revealing too much what actually goes on in the master class, at the end of the workshop, their idea started to take shape, and I could see that they walk away with a very clear idea and a structure of what to do after the workshop. After that, they also signed up for Team Everest, remember? So we assembled a team of committed authors who wants to climb to the pinnacle of becoming published authors, and they signed up for that as well. So that was more like a peer coaching group where we actually walk along when they were writing the manuscript. And I must actually thank the three of them because they were actually ahead of the pack on this journey. And three of them being coaches, they also started to very generously help and support the rest of their classmates on their journey as well. So I'm really happy and proud of three of you that you really are the first to reach the pinnacle. So along the way of working with the three of them, I was constantly amazed that despite your very different personalities, which you probably would have realized by now, they were actually able to leverage their strengths and collaborate very effectively in actually producing the manuscript itself. And I guess much must be attributed to Choi Kyu's cooking for bringing the team together on every Friday and walking this journey together. And I also must praise them because they were very gung-ho, right? To actually attempt to write a business fable. Because unlike a typical business title or a how-to book, the authors actually need to have creative writing competency in order to be able to write something that can engage the reader in a very narrative storytelling style. So I'm really impressed that when I first read their draft, which they submitted to me in November 2020, I actually had a sense that, wow, they actually knew what they were talking about. And by seeing how three of them work together, I started to see, hey, actually three of them is a living role model of this team culture that they were actually advocating through their fable. So then I felt that, wow, this is really powerful. And when they submitted the manuscript to me the first time, I could hear that, whoa, they heave a sigh of relief because finally it's done. Unfortunately, me and my editor had to bring them back to the writing board again. And we actually worked through multiple rounds of iterations of the manuscript. But again, they constantly kept their spirits high. Again, the food, I think, plays a very big part. And they took in all our appraisal feedback with an open mind. They absorbed like a sponge. And I could see that every time after their rework, the manuscript actually scaled to the next level, eventually to the published version that you're seeing today, which is exactly a year later because the workshop was in September 2020. So by sharing with you on the entire ideation and publishing process, I hope that you appreciate actually the tremendous amount of blood, sweat, and tears that were put in by authors behind the scenes, right? In order to take a book of what you're holding in your hand today, all the way from idea to the market. So that very much was the working journey together with the three of them. I think lastly, I just also want to share my aspiration for this book. Adrian, do I still have a bit of time to share my aspiration?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. So as a coach myself, I could identify the message behind this book and the importance of a coaching culture in an organization. And I felt that especially so during these 2 years, when I could see that many teams were actually plunged into crisis mode, right, without any warning. And they were constantly having to firefight because of the ongoing uncertainty. So you see that individuals were being forced to work from home, or if they're lucky enough, perhaps a hybrid working mode. So a situation that they are totally not used to. And hence I see that there's a very dire need for leaders to actually promote coaching conversations within the organizations. Or we'll see more teams working more and more in silos, and we'll see more individuals struggling with a lot of mental health issues. So it is a very important role right now for leaders to actually promote the coaching culture. And through this fable itself, I felt that when I was reading it, it almost felt like it was a mirror to help us to see ourselves and our workplaces through the characters which they have creatively created, and the settings, the very real life settings that they have came up with as well. And most importantly, after the fable, they don't leave you hanging. They actually offer you a 4-step framework, which you will read in the book. It's the WOW framework of actually how leaders can start their own journey to create a coaching culture at the workplace. So it's my hope that the message in the book will resonate with many of you in the room today, who perhaps are facing similar challenge at your workplace. While the flavor of the current time may be a lot about digital transformation, right? We hear that all the time about digital transformation, about analytics. Let us not forget that as we upgrade the technology that we use, we should also constantly upgrade the human touch at our workplace. And this is so important. And of course, one of the ways to do it is to encourage and build a coaching culture. So I think that's all I have to say. Last parting word, if you're keen on creating a coaching culture, obviously one book will not be enough to start the transformation from a toxic culture to a coaching culture. So if you are leaders in your company, I hope that you all grab a copy for every single one of your staff, every single one of your employees, and together, I'm sure you will all build workplaces that will foster well-being and also inspire positive employee experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kok Wah. You know, we do have a happy situation, right? You do know that we're only down to 1/5 of the books that we have left.
Seriously?
So we're not having to do a reprint already, going into second edition. Incidentally, everyone, Kok Wah is also Jean-Francois's publisher. So there seems to be some commonality among all of us here this evening. All right. Thank you again, Kok Wah. Thank you. So just following up on what Kok Wah just said, our book is available. Yes, we still do have copies. Yeah, so sorry, let me put this back. Here you go. It's available on our ebook store for 25 Singapore dollars, and this is a pre-launch price, and then it also includes this event. It's about $19 US. You can get it from our bookstore on our website. It's www.thecoachingculture.co. It's co, not com. Okay, it's co and /bookstore. For those of us in Singapore, you can opt to pay using PayNow. And for our friends internationally, overseas, you may choose to use PayPal. We also have a wonderful book launch offer, and that is we're making ourselves available for a complimentary, a 30-minute exploratory conversation with us. So please drop us an email. It's contact@thecoachingculture.co. Yeah. All right, that's it. Please visit also our website. We've just launched it. It's a brand new website, and we're very, very proud of it. You can scan the QR code and it will take you directly to the website. All right. And last but not least, it just leaves me, and on behalf of Eileen and Choi Kyu and my special guest, a very big thank you. Ernie, Jean-Francois, Deepa, Kok Wah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I do recognize that we sort of extended beyond time. Our apologies. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Take care. Have a lovely weekend. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations again, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Avni.
Bye, Adrian.
Bye.
Bye, Eileen. Bye,
Bye.
Chokyu. Well done.
Congratulations, everybody. Well
Congrats
done.
once again.
Bye. So
Approve.
nice to have you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Isabella.
Bye,
Bye.
Isabella.
Bye.
Bye.
Congratulations
Bye, Jeff. Thank you,
again.
Ro.
You want to say bye-bye?
Bye.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh,
Bye.
it's like a party.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Enjoy the
Milan
rest
wants to
of
say
the
Thanks,
bye.
Milan.
You say
Bye,
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 Milan.
Milan.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful.
Bye, Afni. Thanks, Afni.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Abdi.
Have a
Bye.
great
Take
night,
care. Have a good
everybody. Go
weekend.
celebrate.
Lovely.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
You want to show your teddy?
Hello.
Bye.
Well done, my friend.
Oh, nice. Nice panda.
Yes. Milan, they've just written a book. Yeah, you love reading books, right?
I love this teddy.
Mommy will
You
get
do
you
love the teddy.
you can read mommy's copy.
That'll be a great way to put him to sleep, right?
Hey.
All right. Congratulations again. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.